I'm going to do very less talking today because I have my amazing colleague, Tim Perkins here today, who is very humble. So I would like Tim, please, to introduce yourself a little bit. But Tim has been serving on our Inclusion Council for, I don't even remember Tim, for many years, and been really, really valuable member of our community and our Inclusion Committee. He's always there for us when we need him with blogs or contacts or content or anything. So thanks to Tim for really putting this together for us. I don't know if Amanda Banks is on the call, but she is also our Inclusion Council member who has been leading these Untapped talent for us for the last couple of years. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Tim.
All right, thank you, Sanjita, I appreciate it. So since she wants me to introduce myself, I've been on the Inclusion Council for 4 years. I'm a veteran myself. I did 32 years of service, U.S. Army in the Iowa National Guard, retired as a Sergeant Major, deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan in a Noble Eagle. So veteran employment is very near and dear to me. Part of the other reason is my whole family served. My wife retired from the military. My son served. My twin brother served. So transitioning back to the civilian world and trying to make sure they get employment is always important. But this time we wanted to take a little different spin and show what's in it for the employer. We all know veterans are focused, they're dedicated, they have skills that employers want. Sometimes they can't articulate them as well. You don't really talk about always showing up 15 minutes early for everything, that whatever job someone gives you, you just go do. If they say we're walking 20 miles, you go, okay, what direction? And you just go. But what other things are available to employers to help them, number one, find veterans, keep them, and have some other incentives. So some of the things our speakers will talk about are there's tax incentives for training veterans. There's GI Bill, if you've heard of that. Their college money is how a lot of people know it as, can be used to help train them. Programs are in place through the Department of Labor that they will supplement basically the veteran's salary while they learn your job. The state has a lot of incentives. There's a home buyer grant program. Homebase Iowa will go out and recruit people for you and share everything about Iowa. That's great for you. And then the employer support of the Guard and Reserve. Ms. Cody's going to talk about different ways to put out and advertise how veteran friendly you are, so you get some recognition that way and some free advertising. And Scott from the VA will talk about some vocational rehab programs where basically they pay again for someone to go through your job training and fill vacancies that you have. I'm seeing your screen. I got some facts about veterans here in Iowa. Oh, let me go back, Sanjita, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's fine.
I am sorry about that.
Only some electrons were inconvenienced, so we're good. In Iowa right now, there's 206,000 veterans, so 8.9% of the population. So we're talking about a pretty good number of folks, 100,000 well within the working age group that you can pull to fill all of these hard to fill vacancies that you have using these different incentives. And I will now talk about our speakers real quick for you, Sanjita. Jathan is with Homebase Iowa Workforce Development, and we'll discuss all the programs for them for recruiting, retention, and going out and finding employees for you. Lieutenant Colonel Turner is going to talk about apprenticeships. You may not be aware. A lot of people, we say apprenticeship, they think electricians, plumbers, and trade jobs, but there are a lot of other ones. You can be an actuary at an insurance company, you warehouse worker. There's a lot of IT jobs that you can still have as apprenticeships. Scott will talk about our vocational rehab programs, helping veterans as they come back, and maybe having some different barriers to employment and what programs are there. And then Ms. Cody, Becky Cody from the Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, the new state chair, will talk about some of the recognition programs and also help if you hire someone who's still in the Guard and Reserve. In this context, when we say veterans, they've done some service and have benefits. So they're not always completely out, and Ms. Cody will talk about the programs there. So now I'd like to turn it over to Jathan to discuss Homebase Iowa.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. There is one phone number that I cannot mute and is not muted. If you can mute your phone if you're not speaking, that will be great. Thank you. Hey, Jathan.
Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and share my slides here. Can you guys see? Oh, can you see? Outstanding. So first, it's an honor to be able to join some remarkable colleagues for today's discussion, and I'm grateful to Tim and Sanjita for asking me to share some thoughts. I'm excited about the theme of today's discussion, untapped talent, and I imagine that all of you joining today already see the value in recruiting from the veteran and military community. And so following a quick introduction and overview of Homebase Iowa, I'm going to discuss some incentives and ways that businesses might leverage HBI when thinking about recruiting, attracting, and retaining veterans in Iowa. Let me do my next slide here. Sorry about that. As Tim shared, I'm Jathan Chicoine, and prior to joining Homebase Iowa as one of the program managers for state and strategic initiatives, I served as the director of the Veterans Center at Iowa State University. In fact, a great deal of my life's energy has been working with military members that transition back into civilian life within higher education. That certainly shaped some of my perspectives. Being a veteran is certainly an important part of my life, but it doesn't define all that I am and all that I've done. But it's a significant part of my life story. Since my own transition to civilian life following military service in the U.S. Navy many years ago, I truly felt honored and privileged to be able to continue working with veterans, military personnel, and their families. Homebase Iowa is a one-of-a-kind public-private partnership connecting veterans, military personnel, and their family members with resources and opportunities in Iowa. HBI was an idea that was realized in November of 2013, precisely to address the problem of recruiting top talent to our beautiful state. Our mission is to recruit veterans, military personnel, and family members into the Iowa workforce and to make Iowa the state of choice. When HBI was first developed, there were around 722,000 unemployed veterans across the U.S. And according to the U.S. Bureau of Statistics, in 2018, that number was down to around 326,000. And because of HBI and the efforts of many of our partners across our state, along with other programs and initiatives across our nation, the pool of unemployed veterans is certainly smaller, which speaks to the importance of programs like ours. And many Iowa businesses see hiring veterans as good strategy in gaining high-performing employees with low turnover. And it's also an important way of returning services to those that have served all of us as a society. There continue to be around 200,000 plus service members that are transitioning back from military service into our civilian communities each year. According to the Department of Veterans Affairs, there are more than 4.4 million individuals that have served in military service since September 11th of 2001. And in terms of opportunities for your business, there are some key statistics and changing demographics. For instance, 75% of all service members who separated in 2017 were between the ages of 17 and 34. 75% of post 9/11 veterans are under the age of 45. This cohort is younger, more racially diverse, and includes more women than any other period of military service in our history. In the context of today, with regard to our current pandemic, I believe many of us are figuring out what things will look like, how we'll do business, and what needs we have in regard to the Iowa workforce. But for some time now, I think the question has been less about finding people jobs, but rather finding the right people for the jobs. And recognizing the value that veterans bring certainly gets to the heart of potential solutions for your business and our Iowa communities. In terms of Homebase Iowa, I'm excited about the opportunity for us to tap into the work being done at the grassroots level across our state as a way of inspiring greater excellence. Some of that work is being done within your businesses, and there's certainly the opportunity to leverage best practices. Looking to our HBI communities and institutions of higher learning through our HBI program can also help to increase synergy and systems of support for veterans, military personnel, or family members, and in ways that can benefit your companies. Imagine statewide, we have 106 communities, over 2,400 Iowa businesses, and 27 colleges and universities that are part of Homebase Iowa. HBI is an innovative program that involves Iowa communities, businesses, institutions of higher education, and other partners in the overall success of our nation's veterans, ultimately connecting them with job opportunities and the support to call Iowa their home. Again, Homebase Iowa is about connecting businesses with top talent and connecting veterans, military personnel, and their family members with opportunities and support in Iowa and to call Iowa their home. Homebase Iowa connects veterans and their families with local businesses and community resources through our homebaseiowa.gov, which it's a portal used to help employers find top talent to build their workforce. Homebaseiowa.gov makes it easy to create a strong and local, statewide and local network. Veterans themselves, along with their spouses, can easily go to homebaseiowa.gov, create an account, and post their resume. Once they've done this, our HBI processor will reach out to that individual to gather more information, review their resume, and help get them connected to local resources through the Iowa Work system and American Job Centers. And there is a wide range of resources available for individuals, including many different workshops, and we'll let them know about upcoming hiring events. We archive veterans' profiles after 90 days unless that individual is actively looking for work. And here's the next page after you click on post your resume. I'll say a couple things about resumes. Veterans are often submitting somewhat generic resumes through HBI. And when we think about cultural differences or the translation of skill sets into a civilian context, you might need to dig a little bit. You can certainly ask individuals to write a more targeted resume or apply directly to your company if interested. Or we can also help because we don't want your company to miss out on hiring some really remarkable individuals. For instance, in terms of spouses, sometimes we receive feedback that it looks like they can't keep a job, but a business didn't really take into account that they were relocating every couple of years because they were following their loved one's appointment to different duty stations. If anything, that could speak directly to one's ability to adapt and overcome diversity. Iowa businesses have the ability to create business profiles and can actively search veterans' resumes, but this also allows veterans with active profiles to reach out to you. It's really quite easy for businesses to create a profile, and once you've done so, a member of our team will review it with you, provide a bit of training, and approve it. One of the most important pieces is that your profile remains updated and accurate. In creating it, you'll provide us company information, and you'll have the ability to have a direct link to your website. Sometimes a direct link to your career page, if you have one, is helpful. Once you're in, it's quite easy to search active profiles through various filters such as location of employment, primary industry, and education, but you can also search more broadly. And here's the next page after you click on Become a Homebase Iowa Employer. We highly encourage businesses to be actively engaged, and if there are specific needs you have, let us know. We definitely want to learn about larger hiring initiatives because we host and participate a number of recruiting events, mostly virtual now, and can help highlight some of those opportunities. All you really need to do is send us an email to hbi@iowa.gov. Also, not every veteran is associated with Homebase Iowa, and we have the ability to leverage the broader Iowa Work system through our local veterans employment representatives, our disabled veteran outreach specialists, and a number of other staff at local levels within our American Job Centers. And we partner with a number of agencies across Iowa. And so at this point, I think what I'd like to do is just kind of show you a little bit, take you to our actual website here. Make sure that you can see this. I'm just going to really quickly show you how you can leverage this as a business. If you actually go into the community tab here, it'll pull up all of our different 106 Homebase Iowa communities. Some of those are cities, some of those are counties. If we, for instance, we're going to go into Clinton County, you can actually see that we have a lot of information here about key contacts, but I want to take you to this incentives tab because I was asked to talk a little bit about some of the state benefits. If you actually scroll down to the bottom here, and this is under every community, we have a number of state benefits here. Some of these were part of the Homebase Iowa Act, but we can talk about, for instance, military pensions that are exempt from state income tax. There's a really outstanding $5,000 grant toward the purchase of a home through our Iowa Finance Authority. And there is a significant amount of money that's currently available right now. So definitely let your veterans know about those resources. Permissive veterans preference to employment. And what I really want to convey here is for those of you that are, private businesses, you have the ability to develop your own veterans preference ideas. And we're really happy to share best practices with you. Certainly automatic in-state tuition at state and colleges, community colleges, that was part of the Veterans Choice Act. But also I'm just going to point out here, if you again kind of click, we have a lot of links to where you can easily search information. If you click on this, this pulls us to one of our key partners, the Iowa Department of Veterans Affairs, and there's a whole list of state benefits. I really recommend that you go out and familiarize yourself with some of these resources. And of course, the 100% disabled veterans can qualify to pay no property tax. So let me also show that in addition to a lot of these state benefits that are very attractive to our military community, there are communities developing their own incentives and programs. This one we pulled up was Clinton County. And in addition to this $5,000 grant towards the purchase of the home, they've done a $1,500 grant for the purchase of a home or closing costs reimbursement. And just as an example, the most recent information that I had communicated to me is that they were able to, since they came on board with HBI, I believe it was in 2016, they've had a total of $5 million in home purchases through this initiative, which equates to about $100,000 in property tax every year for the county. So there's some really great examples out here. Again, it's really easy. If you go to the communities, you can pull up anyone, go out and look in your area and find out what initiatives there are offered, because not only can you use that to really communicate the amount of support for your veterans, but part of that, in addition to providing employment, is to get veterans connected to those systems of support so that they can be successful. Also, just lastly, talk a little bit about this Why Iowa tab. We're going to continue to add things to our website as we learn, but Iowa has a lot of really incredible talking points. #1 in the nation for high school graduates. We're, #1 in the nation for housing affordability, #2 in the nation for healthcare affordability, lots of things with regard to healthcare access, education. And so I just really want to point this out because this is a nice place to link to if you have veterans that are coming to your companies, getting them connected in that way. I'm going to go ahead and click out of this. And one other thing I was asked to just talk about is there are a number of initiatives such as the Work Opportunity Tax Credit It's a federal tax credit available to employers who hire eligible individuals, which would include veterans. That could provide an employer, it could decrease their federal income tax liability anywhere between $2,400 to $9,600. I'm not an expert on that program, but part of Iowa Workforce Development, we can absolutely get you connected to the right point people. There are some other programs, business insurance policy. There's a, Iowa income tax benefit for certain individuals. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that, but certainly these are programs that businesses can learn more about. And if it's in the context of working with our military affiliated individuals, just shoot us an email at hbi@iowa.gov, and we're happy to get you connected to the right places. So up on this slide is there some contact information. It's pretty easy to get connected with us. But at this point, I'm going to just ask if there's any questions. And if not, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I've had some trouble with Zoom, so Sergeant Major Perkins is assisting me by broadcasting my slides. I'm currently on my first slide titled Introduction to Registered Apprenticeships. This material is centrally produced by the National Guard Bureau and authorized for use and distribution to you through my office and through Sergeant Major Perkins and through Jathan in Homebase, Iowa. And this is meant to generate some interest on your part and to give you just enough information for you to want to call us back and seek some more information. We can actually provide some expert coaching and access to experienced mentors who can help get these programs going. The unique thing about the National Guard and other branches of the military service is that you take a standard Department of Labor apprenticeship framework and add to it the ability to use the GI Bill, and in some cases, a new program called credentialing assistance. And the veteran has a strong possibility of being able to finish up your programming with money in their pocket. So it can really help out. And we'll look at a couple of charts here in just a moment. So my agenda today very quickly is here before you. Regarding an introduction, I do have an actual office point of contact named Sergeant Katie Wilson, who is our apprenticeship program manager, and I'm covering for her today. And then the rest of the agenda items there, we'll go through these individually in slides. I'm on slide number 3. So what is a registered apprenticeship? By our definition, it's a unique employer-sponsored education training program with annual requirements of up to 2,000 on-the-job training hours for a full-time apprenticeship and an additional 144 hours of related classroom instruction. Supervision is provided by a journey-level craft person or trade professional. Programs generally last from 2 to 5 years, calendar-wise, and many issue a nationally recognized credential upon completion of the program. And that's unique because if there is an associated cost, the Army just launched a program called Credentialing Assistance, where we can help defray the cost of achieving a credential for the testing component itself. So it's a separate funding stream, if you will, to pay for the test or to pay for the exam, as opposed to paying for classroom instruction. We also have over 16,000 employers that sponsor 23,000 plus programs with 585,000 apprentices currently employed in the U.S. I don't think that's related specific to the military. I think that's overall. Veterans can earn full-time apprentice wages and collect their monthly GI Bill benefits for the duration of their apprenticeship training period. So we'll see how that works in a couple of slides here in a moment. But it can be a really good financial benefit for attracting people into your apprenticeship programs and allows veterans as an additional means of using their earned benefits instead of going to a 2-year or 4-year college. So an apprenticeable occupation is defined by DOL as a skilled trade or craft. recognized by U.S. Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration Office of Apprenticeship, and meets the applicable local criteria. And the list of over 1,300 occupations can be found at the website listed here on the page. But as Sergeant Major Perkins mentioned in his opening statement, don't just think about the trades. There are financial apprenticeships, life insurance and actuarial apprenticeships. There are farm and ranch apprenticeships, all kinds of good stuff out there. So don't think of it as just a way to find a good student to become a future plumber, although that's very important. We all know a good plumber is worth their weight in gold. But same with electricians. But expand your horizons as you're looking at apprenticeships as a way to strengthen your own internal training programs, because many times it can present an off-the-shelf capability for you to meet your organization's training needs and attract a good pool of applicants so that you can have longevity and skill creation. You can see here some of the apprenticeship industry sectors. I'll let you read over those. I'm not going to read them to you, but some of them fall outside of what we traditionally think is a skilled trade. We've had truck drivers, we've had truck mechanics, diesel mechanics, a lot of stuff involved in the railroading industry. So moving on, now we get to the part where my office comes in. Securing employment as a registered apprentice can give a person the ability to earn full-time wages and collect your monthly GI Bill check for the duration of that apprentice training period. Now, it is on a sliding scale, so you can see here in a moment where GI Bill payments change over the life of the apprenticeship. So as apprentice wages go up, GI Bill payments actually taper off. And then again, the sponsoring employer certifies the veteran's work hours monthly, which triggers the GI Bill payment. So there are some infrastructure type questions and some administrative tasks that go along with administering a GI Bill affiliated apprenticeship. And our office and the Department of Labor and Mr. Mike Dahmer down at the State Education Office, we are all in paid positions to assist your firms in achieving a registered apprenticeship type program that meets the needs of your organization, but also can meet the needs of the veteran population. And we help you get those things going. We help you get started. We help you get the administration piece set up. The records keeping piece. There's a timekeeping piece for payroll purposes, et cetera. So we can actually provide teaching, coaching, and mentorship along those lines to make sure that you get started off on the correct footing. All right, so here's some breakdown of how one form of the GI Bill is paid out. So post 9/11 GI Bill refers directly to people who have deployed overseas for a contingency operation, and this is also known as Chapter 33 GI Bill. So post 9/11 Chapter 33 GI Bill, notice that it has a housing rate that's paid out based on the employer's zip code and at the pay grade of Sergeant E5 who has dependents. So that's pretty substantial. It depends on the zip code. That could be $1,500, $1,800 a month. And then it goes through the breakdown for each interval of training, broken out in 6 months increments. You can see it progresses and finally tapers off at the end of the apprenticeship to a cap of 20%. All other GI Bill programs, such as Chapter 30, Chapter 35, Chapter 1606, those are all forms of the GI Bill. Monthly payments are based on a percentage of the full-time institutional rate, and it goes on from there. And if you have trouble figuring out what some of these terms mean, then we would be glad to set up a coaching session with you and go through this more in depth, because some of this can take on the feel and look of boilerplate. But we would much prefer to have a coaching session with you to provide expert guidance to you as you set up your program. All right, so here's a table that discusses Boston, Massachusetts as an example, and it shows you the dollar value per training year in a given apprenticeship for post 9/11 Chapter 33. So it starts out at 32.8 and then tapers off to 7,300 by the 5th year for a cash value total of approximately $73,000. Again, that's based on Boston, Mass, which we know cost of living out there is much higher than Des Moines. But just be aware that that's where that calculation of the military housing allowance comes in based on the zip code of the employer. And then you can see the cost comparisons, or excuse me, the benefit comparisons of the other programs. The other two programs that you're most likely going to see are Chapter 30, okay, that's CH30 there, and that is for someone who had been on active duty for a season and had spent approximately 3 years on active duty, and that's the type of GI Bill that they normally have if they do not use Chapter 33. The veteran has some options there at the time that they leave the service. And then another one you may see, especially if you are looking to employ currently drilling members of the reserve components who have not deployed, you're going to most likely see Montgomery GI Bill SR, which stands for Selective Reserve, Chapter 1606. About 5 lines down, and you can see there that cash value of that program is not nearly as significant, but could help a young person get well on their way to success with your firm's help. And again, based on your program, based on the actual veteran's case, because every veteran's case is different, and then based on the needs of everyone concerned, we can help you figure out these calculations and what they mean to both your company and to the employee. All right, here's more links that you can look at to find different items of interest about apprenticeships. One of my favorites is the Department of Labor link right here, the apprenticeship.gov partner findings, and you can look at this link. It's fresh, it's updated, and it's really helpful. And that link actually there was when I was doing some research. You can see Des Moines there, where I was kind of scoping out the Des Moines Metro in terms of what we had to offer. Okay, got some points of contact here. Follow us on social media, and you can, now again, all of this stuff that you're seeing right here is related to how education programs support apprenticeships. These links may not be apprenticeship pure, but connect with us, and we'd be glad to help you along. Now that's it for my slides, but I did have a PDF that I wanted to share with you. Sergeant Major, if you could transition to the special employer incentives flyer. Sergeant Major, were you able to open that flyer? Hello?
1 second, I didn't have it prepped, so bear with me 1 second.
Oh, no, yeah, no problem. While we're transitioning between documents, does anyone have any questions?
Hi, this is Teresa Bridges with Terracon.
Hi, Teresa.
I was recently informed about a bridge program. This was in the state of Oklahoma. Is that exclusive to Oklahoma, or is that something that could be used in Iowa as well?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, if you'll capture a link and shoot me an email, and you can route that. If you don't, I'll give you my email, or you may already have it, but I'll be glad to explore that with you. Okay.
Okay.
And the good news, Teresa, is that if it's something that we can replicate within law and policy within Iowa, I know Jathan pretty well, and I know Sergeant Major Perkins pretty well, and Miss Cody pretty well. If there's a way to replicate it, if it's value added, we can take a look at that, okay?
Hey, Lieutenant
And,
Colonel Turner.
Yes.
Hi, this is Edgar.
Hey, what's going on, Edgar? How are you?
Good. Hey, yes, the Bridges program, yes, it is for active duty personnel, but through Homebase Iowa and Iowa Workforce Development, we are working on it to trying to reach out to Fort Riley, Kansas, and the active bases that are around Iowa, so we can work together with businesses that want to create a bridge program here in Iowa. So I'm going to put my information in the chat so they can reach out to us and we can work on that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Hey, Edgar, that's great news. I'm glad that you're able to chime in. So Teresa, Edgar is another member of our collaboration group, you know, that over time we've hammered on a lot of these different programs. And so, Edgar, if you don't mind, I'm not in the chat right now. If you could email me whatever you send out, that would be great. And then Teresa, we will be glad to collaborate with you, guaranteed.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. You bet. Any further questions? If there's not, I'm going to roll on to my last document that I wanted to share with you guys. Okay, here we go. So what I'm looking at is a flyer that I picked off the Department of Veterans Affairs. And Sergeant Major, when he contacted me about participating today, he put me on the hunt for some employer-specific items, you know, that may go above and beyond some of the standard stuff that we preach. So I'm just going to share this with you. I'm going to read it word for word in case there's someone who's not fully in Zoom like me. The Department of Veterans Affairs Voc Rehab and Employment Program provides eligible veterans an opportunity to obtain training and practical hands-on experience concurrently through the Special Employer Incentives Program. The SEI program is for eligible veterans who face challenges in obtaining employment. The VA is responsible for determining if a veteran is eligible to participate. Veterans approved to participate in SEI are hired by participating employers, and employment is expected to continue following successful completion of the program. VA facilitates the process by identifying suitable placements and coordinating efforts between all parties. As a result, the SEI is beneficial for both veterans and employers. So you can see there, employers who hire veterans under this program receive the following incentives.
Hey,
And then,
Major Turner?
Yeah, Scott going to cover a lot of this?
Yeah, Scott's going to cover a lot of that. I wouldn't, I just wanted to give you a little bit of.
So I'm going to, very well. So I'm going to back away slowly and not steal his information, but I found this to be very interesting and attractive for those firms who are looking to hire that special category of veterans. If any of your questions, that's all I have for the moment, and I look forward to visiting with all of you.
Hey, sir, it's Scott. Thanks for touching on that, and I will certainly cover that as I talk through our VA program. So I appreciate you bringing that to the fore.
You bet. I apologize for stepping on you. I found it very interesting about the different benefits. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. So, Mr. Perkins, I think it's my turn, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we had a good segue there.
Yeah,
Very selling it for you.
Very nice. Okay, everyone. My name is Scott Silve, and I am currently on a detail to Washington, D.C., where I serve as a national employment coordinator. But for most part of the year, I actually am in Des Moines as the VA Veteran Readiness and Employment Services employment coordinator serving the state of Iowa. So I appreciate Sanjita and Sergeant Major Perkins inviting me to speak today. I am, like Jathan, a veteran and a graduate actually of the VRNE program, as is my wife. So I do have a love of the program that extends beyond being an employee. The program has meant a lot to both my wife and I as far as our education and our careers. So I've had the privilege of knowing Colonel Turner, Jathan and Becky for quite some time, and they represent great organizations that have benefited thousands and thousands of veterans over the years I've known them. But more importantly, as individuals, they're all incredible advocates for veterans throughout the state of Iowa. So what does VRNE do? VRNE connects America's veterans to meaningful employment in the civilian sector and the public sector. So we work with both private and public organizations to find suitable and long-term employment for veterans who have a service-connected disability through the Department of Veterans Affairs. Much like Colonel Turner's program, we can also touch apprenticeships. We pay in the same way, the money is the same. Fundamentally, the difference between the VRNE program and the GI Bill is that under the VA VRNE program, every veteran is assigned a professional master's level counselor who helps walk them through their transition from education to long-term suitable employment. So our counselors often start with just a 1-hour conversation with the veteran that hits on interests, likes, aptitudes, and abilities. But most importantly, it touches on how their service-connected disabilities impact their ability to find employment. That is the codifier for our program. There has to be a service-connected disability that is precluding the veteran from finding work in the skills they already have. So mostly, our veterans are looking to increase their economic and career opportunities. Some of the programs that we use for that, accelerated learning programs. So when my wife went through voc rehab in 1994, when she visited her counselor, the idea was to sit down and you're going to look at a traditional 16-week semester school, and you're going to take 4 or 5 years to finish your degree. By the time I went to voc rehab in 2003, the idea was there was a large group of schools that offered 8-week semesters to help get through the program faster. And so about 85% of our guys and girls right now are in a training program, a 4-year or 2-year training program, but probably 70% of those or 60% of those are in what would have been considered a non-traditional program. So that is to say a accelerated program. Many of the schools and universities that we work with serve our veterans in a unique way and offer incredible services through their ALPs. And our veterans find those to be a great fit for their lifestyles. Many of our veterans have families. They've had jobs already. They've made good money. They're just looking to solidify the career field that they have, or as they transition, they still need to work. And so the ALPs certainly help to offset the idea of a 16-week semester where they were in school full-time and can't work a suitable job. The increased educational support through the post 9/11 GI Bill, obviously one of the greatest pieces of legislation written in the last 20 years has been the post 9/11 GI Bill. Fortunately for our program, we are able to pay our veterans at the same rate at the GI Bill as a GI Bill, and we pay for their tuition, fees, and books while they're in school. So just an incredible opportunity for our veterans to attain a degree and really have everything on the financial side taken care of so they can focus strictly on achieving their educational goals. We have a memorandum of agreement with private and public partners throughout the country. One of the things I've been working on in the last 12 weeks of my detail has been reaching out to more Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies to really get more partnerships in place with those organizations to help our veterans find that suitable and long-term employment. Our vocational counseling and planning, like I said, is truly the thing that sets us apart from most other veteran services. Many times a veteran will go into a service provider with an idea of what they want to do, but no real codification of what it takes to achieve those goals. Our program helps them lay out a step-by-step plan to how to achieve their career goals, starting with training. And that training may be a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree. It can be a law degree, a master's degree. We have guys and girls who cover a spectrum of training, but also other types of training. And so Colonel Turner talked about apprenticeship, so I don't want to go back through that, but we also have a program called on-the-job training. And the difference between an apprenticeship program and an on-the-job training from the VA purposes is an apprenticeship has a classroom component attached to it. So there has to be a education part of that, a classroom component. But on the OJT, it's strictly an on-the-job training. It's what many of us would think about as an apprenticeship program. We do those in both blue collar and white collar organizations. And we pay the difference between the entry-level wage and the wage of the journeyman worker, as Colonel Turner described in his presentation. So for our folks, essentially what that means is they are making the journeyman level wage from the time they start till the time they're done. And it's a great way for them to use their benefit if they don't want to go back to school. We actually have the ability to extend that a little bit further than the 3, 4, or 5 years. We can extend programs a little farther to ensure that the veteran gets through the training. On the OJT, the difference, again, aside from the classroom thing, the classroom component is it does not have a end of cycle diploma that goes with the veteran. The OJT really is for a specific job in a specific company. And it's not to say those skills are not transferable, but the apprenticeship implies that a veteran has met a national standard of training, and OJT does not have that same standard. It really is done at a more local level, and really is beneficial to the veteran in the organization that they're currently at. We do cover 5 tracks. Reemployment, which we don't do quite as much as we did in the past. Reemployment is a veteran leaves and deploys, and they come back and want to go back to work. We would work with the employer to find or to get that veteran back to work. Rapid access to employment is a veteran comes to us with a skill. Let's say they are a truck driver or an IT professional in the military, and they are simply looking for work. We connect with organizations and companies who are looking to hire veterans, and we rapidly put them back to work. It may require a quick training cycle or perhaps a licensing fee that we have to do, but generally speaking, they are already ready for employment, and we're just helping to connect the employer to the veteran. Self-employment is a track that many veterans come to us interested in, but as they learn how difficult it is to be self-employed and the financial aspects of being self-employed, we probably do a handful of a year. We work closely with our partners at SBA and at banks and with mentors to help veterans get through self-employment. So it is something that is very popular in the community and is discussed at a pretty high rate. But frankly, when they come into the program, we mitigate, those cases are mitigated through self-attrition. Veterans kind of realize that they don't have the financial latitude to be self-employed. So it is something that we take seriously, but it is a very difficult track. Employment through long-term services is the one we handle the most. Like I said, 80 or 85% of our folks are in school, getting a degree plan. So they are with us for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years sometimes, depending on the degree program. And through that time, we're working on resumes and job seeking skills and looking at LinkedIn and finding out ways that the veteran can connect with the profession they want to join. And so often that's through clubs they join in school, or if there is a student program nationally they can join, we pay the fee so they can start to network through those programs. And that is the bulk of our work is employment through long-term services, ensuring that veterans understand from day one, when they start their degree to the day they find employment, how they can help themselves through their process and find work. Independent living is something that we do. Again, it's a smaller part of our program, but if a veteran comes to our program and is unable to find employment or is not capable of working due to their disability, we help to modify homes, modify cars, make adaptations that they need so they can do the functions of independent living as defined by voc res specialists. Sorry. OJTs and NPWE. OJTs, again, similar to the apprenticeship, except that it does not have that classroom part to it. A non-paid work experience, if you are a federal or state employee or municipality and you need a worker, then the VA has a non-paid work experience program where we can put a veteran into that spot. We pay them a training wage. So they get the same wage they would get as if they were in school. And it's another way for them to learn the skill, but there's no cost to the employer. But it does have to be federal or a state organization. We cannot do it in the private sector. So federal and state agencies, we fill quite a few of those. We transition about 75% of our non-paid work experiences to full-time employment within the constraint of the organization they started with. Most of our guys and girls do it for 6 to 12 months. And the goal there really is for them to get a skill that leads to employment. Colonel Turner touched on the SEI, the Special Employer Incentive Program. I have been shocked on my detail as I talked to the 52 other offices in the country, how little this is used relative to how often we use it. The SEI allows us to pay an employer half of the veteran's wages for up to 6 months to offset any losses the employer takes by hiring the veteran. So losses would be, it takes time to train a veteran, right? You are losing productivity because you're pulling someone else from the job to help the veteran learn the skill set. So our role there is really to the employer, and it is to offset or minimize the loss of productivity that comes with training a new veteran. So it's very simple. I would come out to your office. We would have a half-hour conversation about a training program, why the veteran needs certain skill sets, how you plan on getting those skills to the veteran. We'd fill out about a 5-page packet of paperwork. We would agree to a training program. You would tell me which account you want your refund deposited to, and then we would decide if you want that done on a monthly basis, a 3-month basis, or if you want to get it all at the end. And once a month, we would do a certificate of wages where you would verify the veteran worked, showed up, this time I said May an hour. And it's essentially a receipt for you to tell me how much we owe your organization. We use it in Iowa a lot. It is an incredible program for our veterans and for our employers. I just briefed on it Friday on a national level. And it's something we need to use more. And it's often something that is, it generates from the veteran themselves. They are in touch with an employer. They know a friend who owns a business who wants to hire a veteran, but simply doesn't have the economic capacity in the moment. Or the organization wants to hire the veteran, but realizes that it's too much of a significant loss to pay them a full-time wage for half-time work, so they can't do it. And this is where the SEI comes in incredibly handy. So I would encourage all of you, particularly for small businesses, if you're looking to hire a veteran and the veterans in our program, in our Voc Rehab program, I'd love to talk to you more about the SEI program and how it can impact you. I will also say we often talk about it for small companies, but the reality of it is we do it at companies both large and small. So we do it at Fortune 500 companies who look for a way to save money, or managers who own their own budget looking for a way to save money. This is a great way for us to benefit them. Again, the OJT, apprenticeship wage, specific training with an employer, much like the apprenticeship, the OJT is the same way. The expectation is that at the end of that program, that the veteran is hired into a full-time employment program. On the SEI, I do want to point out, we say 6 months, but we have extended it to 9 on occasion. So if we can meet after 5 or 6 months and recognize that there is a need for more training, or the veteran hasn't quite yet picked up enough, we can extend that to 9 months. But it does take a memo that we have to fill out. It's another visit from me, and we really have to drill down as to why the expectations haven't been met in those 6 months that we initially authorized. We are going to transition the employment coordinator role to the business liaison role. Again, as part of my project is I'm working with 52 offices to make the change. I have been doing the BL role for the better part of 10 years. Hence the reason I was selected for this project is to move the country forward. You will see me out and about meeting with businesses, hopefully even coming back to the Chamber of Commerce and meeting with more folks there. But it's really getting out or doing Zoom meetings and learning more about the business. I listen more than I talk in those meetings. I'm really trying to get a feel for what your business needs and how the needs of our veterans can mesh with your business. But it's really learning what you need as an employer to be successful, and learning more about your employees and what your good employees look like, what struggles you've had with the veterans in the past, what are some of the challenges you have in finding good workers. And that's what we'll talk about. I'll listen, hear what you have to say, and we'll put a plan together to move forward and work and really get moving on this. Again, I saw one of the employers put in that they do review of resumes, and that's incredible. We're always looking for partners to help our veterans to review resumes. We do resumes. We do interview classes. We teach veterans how to do a comprehensive and fundamental job search. But I will tell you unequivocally that if a veteran hears it from an employer, it carries more weight than it does coming from me. They want to hear from an employer, what does a good resume look like? They want to hear from an employer, how do I apply at your company? What does your application process look like? Why am I not getting jobs? And so we do informational interviews quite a bit as well, reach out to companies and ask them to sit down with our clients and just have a conversation around the hiring mechanisms that are in place at your company. If you have a veterans pool of employees, we may ask for a mentor. So we do try to connect the veterans and their families and the employers in a way that benefits all sides. We are partners with DOL, the American Job Centers. If you're not familiar with the Department of Labor and what they do on the Job Center, I encourage you to kind of look at that. I will tell you that our office has a close relationship with labor here in Iowa, not just through the Job Center, but also through our partnership with the Apprenticeship program. Greer System, who is the apprenticeship lead here in Iowa, does an incredible job for DOL. She's one of the best in the country. Our state folks who work on getting the approvals done, Mike and his team, again, just an incredible group of people. And so as I've had the privilege the last 6 months of working in all the states and touching all the offices, I can say without hesitancy and without hyperbole that our state works the best together. We have an incredible process to help veterans find work, and it starts with you, the employers, who are always willing to give our veterans an opportunity. You're willing to meet with Colonel Turner and Jathan and Becky and I to learn more about how you work and opportunities. So I did realize as I was doing this presentation that I generally am doing this in other states and I'm putting in the person's information for contact. I did not put my own information on this one. I'm going to put that in the contact or in the meeting chat there. I'll put my name, number, email address. Please feel free to reach out to me. Once COVID lifts, I'd love to come out and visit your company. Generally speaking, I like to sit in a chair for an hour or two in a job that we're looking at and kind of get a feel for how you work, how your managers work, what the expectations are. So I'd love to do that and come out and meet with you. So that is the end of my presentation. I am privileged to introduce Miss Becky Cody next. Becky and her group do an incredible job for our veterans here in Iowa and for the employers. And so Becky, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it, and appreciate everybody else out there for all you do. And just make sure I'm getting this shared. So thank you again, Scott, for the kind introduction. And I'm Becky Cody. I am the state chair for the Iowa Committee, which is a volunteer role in our state. And very, very proud to be part of an organization I actually used to work for. So I worked for the ESGR, Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve Program, for 11 years. And decided, you know what, I'm going to try my hand at civilian work. And I currently work for the Association of Business and Industry Foundation, or ABI Foundation. Thanks again for having me. I am going to go through what is it that ESGR actually does for you. So ESGR, as I was stating, is a Department of Defense organization. It's been here since 1972. And around that time is when the draft actually ended. So we became an all volunteer military force at that time. And our government understood the need for an organization to come together and be available for employers for any questions related to their military employees, as well as those military employees who might have some challenges. I'm not going to go in too much detail on this slide, as I have more important things to talk about. So we have one paid staff, Karen Scheckinger, who is actually on the meeting today, and her role is to support and facilitate the programs we have across the state, and we'll go into those programs here in a few minutes. She reports to National ESGR, And most importantly, what she does is support the 100+ volunteers that are in the state of Iowa that are spread across our entire state, to help our military members, employers, with any questions they may have in regard to military duty and USERRA, or the law that protects both sides when our military members are on duty. We have those 4 different roles. Actually, the first 3 are our primary roles. And I'll talk a little bit about who to contact in regard to the employment initiative programs. On the employer outreach side, this is probably the piece that I love the most. Well, I love all pieces of ESGR. If anybody has been on a boss lift or been out to Camp Dodge on a civic leader event, you have that opportunity to engage with military members, understand their duty, understand what they're training on, the amount of commitment they have to their military service, et cetera. And we give employers the opportunity to go through a few hours in the life of. So out at Camp Dodge for a civic leader event, for example, we will bring them out to the simulation centers, and you can go through a rollover simulator, firing range, observe the medical simulation, maybe go through the BAT, which is the Black Hawk Training Center, et cetera. And if we're lucky and the weather is nice, possibly a flight on a Black Hawk or a Chinook helicopter. We also offer training to employers to help you understand USERRA, Uniform Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act. A mouthful. You know, generally when it comes to understanding the law and your military members, currently serving military members' rights, it's not necessarily the HR or recruiting folks from your environment that are challenged with understanding what the law is. It's usually your supervisors and managers that have those timelines, deadlines, that if somebody's away on military duty, maybe it's annual training for 2 weeks, and their first reaction is like, no, you can't go. We don't have time for you to leave. It's our job to help the employer understand what that law means and what those protections are to that service member. And we do those through lunch and learns or even specific company training. So if you as an organization would like to train your supervisors and managers, regardless of what shift they're on, we would be happy to schedule a 1-hour training just to train your managers and supervisors to ensure that they don't infringe on the USERRA law. We're a resource for so many different things. Well, at one time we used to have an employment assistance program that was specific to ESGR. That went away several years ago. And then National Guard Bureau created a program called Citizen Soldiers for Life. Karen Scheckinger actually used to be a part of the employee for that program. And just this last August, that also no longer was receiving funding. However, John Michelson, who is also on our meeting.
I am in fact here, yes.
He is our current conduit to employers and helping connect across the state of Iowa valuable employees that are members of the National Guard, but also connect employees of our service members with, again, employment services across our state. That is our employer outreach program. Now, our military outreach program, we have volunteers that are assigned to units across the state to ensure that our military members in those units understand the law as it pertains to them leaving for military duty and their rights, but also what are the requirements back to you, the employer. It's not a one-way street. Often, the biggest challenges we have with our military and their employers is the fact that they're not communicating with each other. Our military members generally are pretty humble and don't want to talk too much about their military service, or maybe they're feeling guilty about leaving, knowing that those deadlines are there and that the employer is simply overworked and overwhelmed at the time. However, the military service is their priority when it comes to what they signed for our government and being able to serve. We also have the awards program, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but generally the service member needs to submit or nominate the employer for an award, and that basic level award is the Patriotic Employer Award. John, would you like to talk just very briefly about your role as a resource to military and our employers?
Hi, I've been muted because I have dogs that every time I pick up the phone think I'm eating something and not sharing, so I apologize for the noise. My job's pretty simple. We have soldiers and airmen across the state with a wide variety of skill sets. I want to help them find jobs that match what they actually want to do and are trained to do, whether that's something new or a skill they've acquired as one of their additional duties as assigned. We're here for them and their families. Additionally, I have had a lot of employers, like last week, like 60 of them, reach out and say, hey, we really like the idea of having service members on our workforce. You have anybody that wants to be an auto mechanic at a dealership, armed security in Des Moines? I've got one company that's looking for somebody with business analytics at the strategic level. And so I'm actually talking to a colonel from the Rock Island Arsenal who's recently retired to fill that job in Des Moines. Whatever they need, I'm here to connect the dots. I spend a lot of time trading information with Jathan over at Homebase, Iowa. I'm learning to make friends with the LVERs and DevOps at Workforce because they've been boots on the ground longer than I've been thinking about this. And I'm a former ESGR area chair, so I have an idea of what both sides need. So
Thank you,
I am
John.
here for you.
Thank you, John. If you could put your contact information in the chat box would be great. And then finally, we have our mediation services in our ombudsman program. And typically, if a service member thinks that their rights have been infringed on, they will contact our ombudsman and maybe create a formal case. However, most often our ombudsmen are simply calling our employers just to see what may be happening. Is it a miscommunication of information? Is a service member maybe not providing information that they should be in regarding their military duty? And again, we want to train you employers on what your rights and requirements are. We have several hundred service members that are currently deployed in Iowa right now, or are on their way to deployment. So now is the time to learn about you, Sarah, and what your rights are and requirements are prior to them coming back. Because once they come back, their USERIA rights actually take effect. So I had an employer call me a couple months back because their service member was returning on what they needed to be thinking about in regard to them returning back to the workspace. From what they were telling me, they were doing everything right in regard to the USERA. However, there's all these little nuances that they may not have been considering or weren't considering in regard to that service member's position before they left. Who was filling that workspace for them? Who was taking on the extra load? And so often the service member gets all that recognition for what they've done and thanking them for their service. However, those employees that took on that extra workload while they were gone often don't get a lot of recognition. And so often family members may be recognized for what they do when that service member is gone. As a wife of somebody who's gone through a couple deployments, I get thanked often for what I had to go through with a young family while my husband was deployed. However, again, those employers and those staff that are covering for that service member, think about what they're doing to also support and to be of service while that employee is gone. And then we have our awards program. And as I stated before, typically the service member nominates their employer for the award first. And then we have the opportunity based on what that nomination says to accelerate that award to a higher level. Maybe it's an above and beyond, which we usually typically give about 25 of those a year to employers, or the Pro Patria. And that one we're actually very restricted on. We can only give 3 away a year. And that's 1 large or 500 and above, 1 small, 499 and below, and a civic employer or public employer. And we read every single nomination from the previous year that has been submitted by service members and really glean through what they're saying. What is that employer doing that's above USERRA to support that military member? Maybe it's recognition. Maybe it's supporting the family member or spouse while that service member is gone. Doesn't matter if it's for that 2-week, 3-week annual training or a full deployment. Anything that's above USERRA, we're looking at to see what is that employer doing that really is of value to the mental health, emotional health of that service member and their family members. Right now is the National Freedom Award nomination period. It runs from October 1st through the end of December. And again, we only 15 across the nation are selected. So our nominations have to be extremely strong in order to be awarded that. We have had about 5 in our state since 2006 that have been awarded the National Freedom Award, and that's a Secretary of Defense Award, Principal Financial Group, NIMASTER, Nationwide, a Small Family Farm, and there was one more, and I'm having a brain lapse on what that is right now. However, if you are doing great things, it doesn't hurt to encourage your military employees to nominate you for an award. Now, the statement of support piece is how you can simply show recognition for what you do to support your military members that work for you, or support community veterans within your organization or veterans within your community by simply signing a statement of support and displaying it in your place of work. Casey's, for example, has signed a corporate level statement of support. So each one of their Casey stores, as you walk out the door, typically will have them framed on the left side of their door as you walk out. So look for that next time you go out of a Casey's. Hy-Vee is another one that has signed a statement of support on the corporate level. And real quickly, I want to take you to a page that you can reference USERRA on your own. But again, we would love to take the opportunity to be able to work with you and have conversation with you on what USERRA is and how you can best support your military member. If you go to the esgr.mil website, and then you're going to go to USERRA links. And the best one to go to is actually this top one, Title 20, Chapter 9, Part 1002. The reason I like this one is because it actually has the most common questions that you may have regarding USERRA or the law. Eligibility for reemployment is a lot of times the big one. And you can simply select that link and then it takes you to the section of the law that helps answer that question that you may be having. Granted, there is some gray area sometimes that your question, you can't really find the question in the list. And we, again, would be happy to help you with that. Steve Olson with the Department of Labor Vets is extremely helpful as well if you have any more in-depth questions. Our ombudsman actually reach out to him often to ensure that we're understanding the law correctly and effectively explaining it to the military member as well as to the employer. Any question on ESGR? Thank you for, again, giving me the opportunity to talk about our programs and what it is we do as a volunteer organization for the Department of Defense.
What we really want to do here is show a lot of different programs an employer can bring together to find veteran employees, to help get some incentives so the cost isn't as much. Especially in the current climate, as you start bringing employees back or trying to fill needs, working with the VA, working GI Bill. I want to point something out when we talked about the voc rehab and the apprenticeships to give you an idea of on-the-job training that's not with the VA voc rehab. every police department has an on-the-job training program for the GI Bill. So there's no, even though they go to the law enforcement academy would be their classroom time, that's not covered during it, but all their time on the job is. So if you have any type of security job, there's warehouse workers, forklift operator, crane operator, you'd be amazed how many out there may have some incentives to help you pay someone a little bit less, let the GI Bill make up the difference. So by the time they're trained and up to the full salary, you've had some time to recover during after COVID. You can definitely get with all the people here, go through Sanjita at the partnership. I'm gonna throw everybody under the bus and say they'd all be willing to come together as a group to help you from start to finish. Sell Iowa, get them here, get them a house, get them rolling on. I personally have dragged one of the people who's on here, Miss Walter from Arizona to Iowa. I didn't tell her about the weather changes because I'm not stupid. Now she's finding it out herself. But with a lot of great things in Iowa. So if you have any questions, please definitely reach out to us and let us help you build a program. The other good thing is with the on-the-job training and apprenticeships, they're already built out there. And Colonel Turner can help you with that. Jathan can. All you got to do is pull somebody else's and change the name. It is not a real complicated system. They made it really easy for you to do. So, and one other selling point I'll make real quick. I used to work at the VA hospital, and I also go to the hospital as a veteran. There's a lot of incentive there because for all my medical needs, I go to the VA. So my employer's insurance doesn't get hit with a lot of these things. And they provide a lot of telehealth appointments, so you don't lose time. So that can be another incentive for hiring a veteran as well, is they'll do a lot of their care out there and not need to necessarily hit your insurance as much. All right. Any questions from anyone? We've got a couple minutes. I can throw Brigadier General Ford under the bus and see if he wanted to add any comments. It's good to be retired. You can throw generals under the bus. So if you'd like to, General, you're welcome to make a comment.
You need to unmute yourself first. There we are.
Yeah, no comments from me. Thanks for the opportunity. I think this is a great session you guys put on and appreciate the time and effort you put into it.
All right. Thank you, General. So, and that's another group you can reach out to out at Camp Dodge or at the reserves. There's Marine Corps Reserve, U.S. Navy Reserves, Iowa National Guard, Air National Guard. They have folks that are trying to help spouses, dependents, their kids, and all of them find jobs that can help you match up. Some of our younger service members don't know how to translate the skills they've gotten over to what an employer is looking for. They take those things for granted. The showing up early, the skills, having to work. Every soldier, I'll give for instance, every soldier in the Army has to know how to repair a vehicle, a generator, things like that, but they're not going to put that on a resume because they think it's just something they do, not showing they can learn additional skills besides their primary job. So, and I will turn over. Sanjita, do you have
Awesome.
anything you want to
Can
add?
I call out somebody that's on the call today?
Sure.
Brett had made a comment about his civic leader experience out at Camp Dodge.
Yeah.
Brett, can I ask you to share your biggest takeaway from that day?
Yeah, so I went last summer, I believe, and I'm a recruiter at Grinnell Mutual, and so I got to go with a couple other members on my team, and I really enjoyed just learning more about kind of the informational section at the end where they kind of talked more about USARE and everything. I thought that was very educational. And then on kind of the activity side, the rollover, that was just such a cool experience. That was really fun to get in there and do that. And just the activities we got to do, like the gun practice and everything. That was a really unique and cool experience. So overall, it was just a really fun day and a really good learning experience.
Thank you for sharing. Has anybody else done a civic leader event or boss lift that would like to share their experience? Nobody? Well, if you ever have the opportunity or somebody sends you an invitation, please consider attending one, because they really do give you a huge perspective on what our military members must qualify on. And we do them out of Sioux City and at the 132nd Wing. It's our role as an ESGR program to represent all forces of the Guard and Reserves. Once COVID hopefully rears its ugly head here in a few months, the Marines and Navy have a brand new facility out on the north side of Camp Dodge that we would love to bring employers through and show them their new facility.
Awesome.
Angie?
Well, thank you, everyone. I think this was a great presentation. I learned a lot. So I hope many of you on the call had at least one or two takeaways, if not more. This is our ongoing effort to bring light to untapped talent groups. Like I mentioned earlier when we started the call, there are several other untapped talent groups that we have been focusing on and bringing information to you about. I put some links in the chat box. Our Inclusion Council members have done an amazing job of giving their time and talent to put these together. Please make use of them. There is a PDF form, and then we also have updated the website with live links. So in the updated form of our toolkit, we've added information about local community organizations who you can reach out to work with these marginalized group members, or if there are any grant that's out there that you can look at, what are some benefits. So please make use of them. And if you are, have any best practices that has worked for you, would love to share that with the rest of the world too. So please reach out to me. And if you have any other specific questions, if there are anything that you are running into while you are working, to try and hire from these groups, would love to hear. So please continue the engagement. And lastly, I want to thank all of our panelists today for taking that time to be with us today. So have a wonderful afternoon, everybody. Thank you.